You realize that after maybe 10, 15 years, you realize that, hey, it was really fun to be in college where we had the freedom to do a lot of things. So make full use of this time. This is also a time which you're in a slightly protective environment. So make mistakes, learn, and pick brains from your other students, your teachers.
So, firstly, I'd like to know that how does a typical day in your life go? And like with the advent of COVID, has it brought any change? Like, how do you spend your leisure time or time with your family?
Okay, so pre-COVID, my days were very well structured. So the fixed time to wake up. First thing I would do was get some exercise done, go out and play, come back home, take a shower, look at emails, figure out what's happening, and then go to work and spend pretty much the entire day at work. Come back around leave around 7:30 or 8 p.m. and that would be pretty much end of the day. Of course, unless there was some calls etc. here and there. Post COVID, the sports complexes are not open yet. So the mornings are have changed a lot. So I end up spending up pretty much late in the night, working on something, reading up on something. My exercise time has also moved to the evening right now. So I'm more active in the evening versus what I used to be more active during the day during COVID time. So now my day also starts a bit late. Typically my first meeting starts around 10:30. So I keep my mornings a bit light, but they go on till pretty late, right? So other than that, yeah, not much change. And I hope that when the lockdowns start to open up, I
Right.
go back to my normal routine.
Right, sir.
Yeah.
Right. So, like you started delivery in 2011, right?
Yeah.
And at that time, I think there were a lot of other companies as well who must have been working on the same business model. So, I mean, what was your motivation behind this particular venture, and how did you make it different from your competitors?
So, Tushar, not many companies were there in that space at that time. We were one of the very early ones who entered the space. So if I go back to 2011, that's when e-commerce was kind of taking off in India. I think Flipkart had got their first big funding. I think Tiger had invested around that time in 2011 or maybe just a year before that. Foodie or Zomato was also coming up in a big way at that time. And then there were other startups like Urban Touch, Times, etc. were doing pretty good at that time, right? Let's Buy was there. So we were seeing a lot of such companies picking up. And we saw a gap in the market with respect to e-commerce parcel deliveries. So when we started off in 2011, so we were 5 co-founders, 3 of them when they started off early in 2011, I think in Feb or March, I think around March or so. Their focus was primarily on food delivery. So we were thinking about, should we deliver food in Delhi NCR area? That's a huge market. That's how we were looking at it at that time. So and we did see Zomato at that time coming up with the menu aggregations, giving people an access to what's available where. And we were like, hey, can we step into that physical delivery of food and see what it takes? And as we were doing some other deliveries in Gurgaon area, we picked up 2 bikes. We started delivering it on our own to figure out what it means. We soon realized that there's a bigger gap for e-commerce, and a lot of the e-commerce companies who were based out of Gurgaon would spot our people or spot us driving the bikes and would say, "Yaar, hamara shipment bhi deliver kar sakte ho. Can you do the last mile for us? That's a big challenge. Even if you do it for Gurgaon, that would be helpful." And within 2-3 months, we saw a big uptake in that area, and we started getting a lot more serious about it. So I think March or April is when we started off informally in the food sector. But within 2-3 months, we were like, okay, you know what? E-commerce is a much bigger opportunity, and that is something to run after. The other players at that time, Aramax, or I don't know who all were the bigger players at that time. There were some of the traditional players, but to them, e-commerce parcel delivery was not that big. So very few of them were looking at it that seriously in the early days, and that was a big opportunity, a big gap. So that's how we entered the market.
Right. Yeah. So, like you graduated in 2000, and after that you went into the corporate sector, like you did a job, right, with a firm. So, I mean, what were the factors which encouraged you finally to get out of your regular job and start a venture of your own?
Yeah. So I think these 7-8 years in the corporate life, I think I was pretty much done with it by that time. But if I think about my first, 4-5 years at Sapient, so I started my career with Sapient. Sapient was starting off in India in early 2000s. So one of the very first employees, and it was a great learning that I had. Right, we had a lot of independence. We were able to run a lot of things on our own. We were thrown into different challenges which were not related to just pure technology, IT services. Growing the organization, setting up new offices, hiring people, interviewing, involved in some of the initial setup processes. And every time a new project would come, we would be the ones who were leading large parts of it. So there was a lot of learning in the first couple of years at Sapient, right? And then I really enjoyed it. But I think after 6-7 years in 2007, 2008, the question was, what next? Is this something which I want to continue doing? Are there some other options that I have? I felt that I was, kind of maxed out what I was doing. So that's when I started looking out. I was talking to a friend of mine, and we started discussing about Mint.com in the US. He was based out of US, and we just had a typical conversation, both from college, both mechanical guys, and we were just having that conversation. And we said, yeah, why can't we do something similar to what Mint is doing in the US, in India? Does it even make sense? We're like, we don't know how big that market is, but we do know that, so Mint used to be a financial aggregation of your accounts. So if you have multiple bank accounts, they would aggregate your finances at one place and then tell you, where you are spending much, or where there are opportunities for you to save more, or your habits are from a financial point of view. That definitely looked like a very interesting idea. It still is an interesting idea, but I don't think it really cuts out for a market like us, right? So that's how that was my first foray into something different from my typical, IT services job. And we spent around 6 months doing that. That was 11 rupees, I think. And there were big learnings from there, right? So my mindset was very different, coming from a company like Sapient, who would work with, a Fortune 100 companies or Fortune 500 companies at best, and would look at, minimum, let's say, 1 million transactions happening. The scale and size was very different. And over here, we were just setting things from scratch. So mentally, I don't think I was ready yet then. Neither was my friend. And, we wrapped up within 6 months. But honestly, we got a good push in the media. People were very excited about what we were doing. I met a bunch of angels, met a bunch of investors, people who got excited about the whole, what we were doing. But the moment it came to, investment, money, they were like, why don't you get started? Why don't you prove something, bring something on the table, try to get at least your first account, first client. But we could never get that, right? So we had to wrap that up. So I think that's how it kind of transitioned out, where I was anyways into the mood of saying, hey, I think I'm maxed out at Sapient. I love what I'm doing, but I'm getting into a mode where, this is pushing me out of my comfort zone. I'm not enjoying it that much. And just a chance call that I happened with a friend of mine exposed me to a very different side of, work culture, work, entrepreneurship, setting your own things up. And I kind of enjoyed it. Those 6 months were good. We didn't do a lot, but it was exciting because we were building something from scratch. Yeah.
So, sir, like you did your bachelor's in mechanical engineering and you ended up being in a technical sector. So, like, how did you make a jump from your core mechanical branch into the technical field? And was it also during your IIT days that you had started learning in this particular field?
Yeah. So I was always into programming, even from my school days. Back then this was BASIC and Pascal. You guys may not be aware of that. But yeah, so I was pretty much into coding, picked up a lot of things on my own, was very comfortable with various languages. So I picked up C, Java, etc. during my college days, just as my side hobby. And my main BTech project was into where I built a software which was basically, look at the vibration analysis data coming out from turbine engines. So different turbines, they would have different bearing, different ball point, etc. And we would measure, put sensors over there and collect data. From the data that we would collect, we would identify the probability of, what are the chances for this particular turbine or this particular ball bearing or this particular section of the turbine to, develop a fault in the near future. So very probabilistic mechanism. So my professor, Dr. J.S. Rao, worked very closely with him, and he was an expert in this field, especially in the turbine space and vibrational analysis. And our idea was that, yes, one can collect data and, print out results and then, do the analysis over a day, 2 days, but that's already too late. And his vision was, how do I present this in a control room kind of a scenario within, let's say, an atomic power station. So we had set up something in Surat, in Kakrapara Atomic Power Station, visited that 2-3 times, even went to Bombay, Park area, where we set up the software, demoed it over there. The idea was in the control room, you set up a software where the visibility is available in real-time basis, saying these are the faults that might develop, and from the data that we are collecting, so that the action can be taken, preventive action can be taken much upfront. So that entire thing was in Visual C. The entire coding, etc., was done by me and my BTech partner. So the two of us worked pretty hard in collating the data, working with different students. There were research students, there were people who were doing PhDs in different part of it, and we would collect those things, run a bunch of algorithms on it. A lot of the algorithms was something which Dr. Rao had put together based on all his research, and we would convert that into algos which could be run in real-time basis. So that was my starting point in college itself. And I kind of continued that piece, post college, and there were very good learnings over there, right? Because a lot of push was there, how do I present this information? So Dr. Rao would push a lot and saying, until, visually representation doesn't come in properly, people will not be able to make much out. You can't just throw numbers, you just can't throw, some stats out on the screen. So that's why you chose Visual C. We picked up that language, and that was very new at that time. I made a lot of mistakes, a lot of issues. I still remember a day before our launch, we changed the entire code because we made a mistake. There was a bug in the code. But yeah, so the learnings came very early, and I always enjoyed the space. And it was a good combination of mechanical plus software engineering coming together, because that's what happens in the real world. And it was great that I got exposed to it in the last year. Yeah,
that's really interesting to know. Yeah. So, sir, there are, you might be aware that there are a lot of budding entrepreneurs in IIT Delhi at this point of time. And a lot of them had this question that what is the ideal time to start and how to look for finances? I mean, when they start off, like what should be their first, way of looking for finances for their startup?
So yeah, Tushar, there's no ideal way, man. There's no time key. This is the right time. Right after college, last year of college, 5 years into the industry. I think what really matters is, what are you looking for? What do you want to, achieve? What do you want to set up? What's your idea? What problem are you trying to solve? Right. I think a lot of time should go into that. Right. The next would be, how big is that opportunity? Now, for example, in the logistics space, when you think about it, right, we started with an e-commerce parcel delivery. And way back, people would estimate it to 20 billion, 40 billion, or whatever that number used to be. But now we said, why only e-commerce parcel? The bigger market is, a $200+ billion market in India, and maybe a couple of $1 trillion market if I look at the global logistics industry. That's a huge market, right? And there can be enough opportunities for us and for multiple people to participate and play. So the idea is what is the problem you're trying to solve? Is the problem, big enough? Is the problem really worth solving? Is that unique? And how big is that overall market in which you are playing? I think once those things are sorted out, the next thing would be, finances. Next thing would be what are kind of people I want to work with, right? And the reason I stress on, identifying what your idea is, what the problem you're trying to solve, because once you get on this journey, there'll be a lot of things that will come your way. A lot of, think of a lot of stones being thrown at your way, in good way or the bad way, whatever be the case, right? You'll find a lot of hurdles. Sometimes you may not, be able to work well with your founder. There may be some challenges over there. There'll be times when there'll be legal issues. There are times when the payments are not coming in. You're not able to hire the right people. the product that you built just failed right at the demo position, or when you were giving it to a large customer, just didn't work out well. There are a lot of things, small things, big things, large things, right? But when all these things are going on, if you really believe in your idea, in your problem that you're trying to solve, that will keep you going. So invest a lot in that first. Now, when it comes to finances, right, and you believe that your idea is great, it's one of the best thing, and which will definitely change the world or will change the shape of the world, right? That passion needs to flow in, right? And that should be visible to not only to your customers, your clients, but also to people who are gonna bet on you from the investor's point of view, right? So step one over there would be, how do you wanna, what are you selling, to whom are you selling? Will they be happy to pay some price on it, right? What is the money that they can pay for it? As you grow, will you end up making more money, or will you end up losing more money? So those are some of the things which you need to talk, or at least to yourself, to figure out how those things are going to work out, right? A lot of time I've seen people, they kick things off, but how do I commercialize it? How do I think about monetizing it? Those things become secondary. I think those things should be at the forefront. If you believe in something, then people better be happy to pay for it, because they feel, this is something which I really need, and that's the reason I'm happy to pay for it. That's a service that I need, right? So once those things are sorted, once you have few players who are happy to pay money, who are paying you, and your revenue starts trickling in, your model gets validated. That's when you start looking at investors, maybe a seed round, or maybe getting to other investors, family, friends, and start raising money. But the initial way, the very first way, would be to bootstrap. Until and unless you don't put in your own money, it is a problem. At least the way I look at it, and I may be a bit old school in that fashion. You have to have your skin in the game. You have to be 100% into it. You need to pour in your finances. So beg, borrow, steal from your own friends, family members to start off with. Let that pressure come on you to deliver something, so they get excited about what you are doing. Once you're through to that hurdle, start looking out for external validation from angels or from seed investment, etc. And then once those things get kicked off, then it's fine. Then you will already have a way into other VCs, investors, etc. Yeah.
So, sir, you have been the CTO of this company from the past 10 years. So all through this time period, were there some instances where you may have doubted your capabilities, or you may have doubted if you could tackle this particular situation?
टाइम नहीं मिलता था सब सोचने का, but ठीक है. So see, the last 10 years, I honestly, they just gone by, right? They have been pretty fast, and I like that. I enjoyed that also, right? There are a lot of learning, a lot of things, a lot of ups and downs. So honestly, there was no question about, or there was no time to how to doubt about your ability, right? So the idea would be, okay, we are facing issues in so and so thing. Okay, I am not able to focus on certain things, or maybe I don't have the right skill sets to manage XYZ things. What to do, how to solve it. Either we get more people, we get a third-party vendor, we partner with somebody, find a solution, move on, take a decision, move on. So, CTO is one part of it. Co-founder is also one part of it. And that's when your co-founder or your founder mindset has to take in and take over from there, right? Just doubts from a CTO perspective are very easy to handle, man. Just hire the right team under you, give them all the right resources, give them the independence, give them the direction, and they'll get your things done for you like anything. So, which is absolutely fine. I think that's something that all of us deal with on a day-to-day basis, man. And none of us honestly have time to doubt ourselves. Then we are doubting the overall thing about जो हम कर रहे हैं क्या वो ठीक है या नहीं. But honestly, we never had time to think about that.
Right. Sir, I was reading online that the company is going public next year, right? I mean, there are plans to go public. Yeah. So, as a CTO and co-founder, do you have any major plans to make any changes, or do you think there is some need of major improvement in the company?
No, man. I think a lot of things are pretty much there. We're anyways a very well audited company. We run things, or we at least been trying to mimic running as a public company internally for a while. Setting up targets, putting the right structure in place. So, which is fine. Not really. There's nothing like you have to do specially for an IPO. I get that question a lot, and I can't start thinking like, what are we supposed to do? Are we missing something? But when we talk to our investors, and we have a great set of investors on board, I think we pretty much have things under control. There will be a few minor things from a financial point of view, some regulatory point of view, which will get done. But just from a technology, day-to-day work, nothing changes, man. Everything continues to remain the same.
Right. Yeah. So now I'd like to take a couple of questions from the students directly. So one of the questions is that, is it possible to take up entrepreneurial endeavor with a job going in parallel? And if yes, how to manage stuff around?
See, of course you can do that. A lot of people do that. But in my personal opinion, man, if you really think something is worth your time, and you think that is something that can become really big, I would give it my 100%. I would not think of doing it part-time. Part-time is fine to begin with. Fine, I'm figuring out how to handle my finances, etc., etc. I can't leave my job, which is okay. But that transition has to be quick, has to be swift. And then my opinion is to go 100%, go all in. That's when you will really make a difference. If you already have something in your hands other than your core startup or a core entrepreneurship, what you're working on, it is very likely that you will not be willing to take certain risks. Your decisions will be, certain decisions may not be as aggressive or as hard as they're supposed to be. But only once all your chips are in, you'll be able to really move forward. And it's fine to, go 100%, put a timeline, put a deadline in terms of certain outcomes. And then whatever it may be, just stop at that point if it doesn't make sense. That's perfectly fine. Other thing which I've seen a lot of time, people, get started and they're not willing to let go, which is also a problem, where, there are not enough indicators out in the market, but people just try to just keep on pushing and pushing. So keep, some specific timelines, some specific outcomes in mind, and just go for it, man. But my take is go 100%. No point in doing half-hearted. Doesn't work.
Right.
Or it won't make you that big, that's all.
Right, sir. So there was another question which says, does corporate exposure or even an MBA help with the startup journey, or is it almost equally good to be an entrepreneur right after graduation?
Again, hard to say, man. We've seen people across the board, right? There are people who have picked up things in the last year of college. Some of them have done wonderfully well. Some of them have struggled. Similarly, people have the right education, right corporate background, did the right things, right industry, but still not been able to, pick up things. So no right or wrong answer to that. But my personal opinion, which I think, which really worked well for me, is that a corporate job does, have its own merits. It will expose you to a bunch of things, which at least in the college life, it's hard to pick up on, like the people management skills, communication skills. How do I manage tasks? How do I distribute or collaborate across, teams of, 5, 10, 50, 100 member team, right? How do I run those things? So a lot of the corporates, a lot of the companies which have come in the last 10 years, even 20 years, right? They've done a wonderful job of managing some of these things. And those are things which you will need sooner or later, right? So it's always best to, in my opinion, to start with a job, pick up, get exposure to domains, get exposure to industries, get exposure to how things are done. And if you're really passionate about something, find the right job that you want to get into, the right role you want to get into, the right set of people you want to work with. And those things can anyways open up, further, multiple options for you. Because in college environment, we are anyways limited to the way we see things, right? We are still in a protected environment, like it or not, which you guys will realize once you step out in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years time. So my sense is that exposure is good. How much exposure is up to you. MBAs are also good. I've seen people with MBAs being very successful. It's also a great place for networking, exchanging ideas, setting up other, ventures over there. And so definitely, my take is that when it comes to education, please focus on education. If you can get exposure to whatever you want to do for 1 or 2 years where you can get your hands dirty, please do. before taking the plunge.
Right. So, sir, we are towards the end of this session, and lastly, I would like to discuss with you regarding your IIT days and your experience at IIT. So, could you please tell us a bit about your IIT life? Like, what all activities were you involved in, and I mean, what were those key learnings which you think have helped you professionally as well that you gained in IIT?
So I was a day scholar. So I don't know if the day scholar concept is still there. So I started in 96 to 2000. I think the 96-95 is when they started the whole day scholar concept. So most of my time used to be in Exol, Venti, etc. Between classes or between during breaks. A lot of time I used to spend in CSE. I'm not sure if they still call it that or not. So that's where I used to spend most of my time picking up things other than work. There were some wonderful times, man. I used to get my hostel in second sems. I think did it once or twice. Still remember my own batchmates, having fun at my expense, but they, treating me as a fresher in my second year, second sem. That's also wonderful. And there are a lot of good memories from the very first year. A lot of blank faces during certain courses across the entire room, sitting in the first, the tuitions, the tute classes that we used to have in the second half. But anyway, in respect to that, picked up, made very good friends during the course of the year, and that friendship strengthened year on year, right? And especially once we look at outside of the college, suddenly, we were the friendship a lot more stronger than it was in the college time, interestingly, and a lot of us are still in touch. During college, I feel that some of the things that really helped out. The way our curriculum is structured, right? We are always busy with something or the other, or we are always by the fourth year, if you realize, we guys have been mentally prepped to be ready for a quiz, a spot quiz or whatever, or the exams between अभी मतलब minor 1 खत्म नहीं हुआ, minor 2 आ जाता है, right? So we're always ready for something or the other, right? I think that is a very good the way that whole structure is set up, right? If you give too much break, too much time, the real world doesn't wait for you. When something has to be done, it has to be done. And people who will do MBAs later, they realize it's even more tougher over there. But that's how they prep you for the real world, right? The other one is every time when we used to do certain courses, right, and certain professors used to really push us hard on that. The idea was to understand the concepts, right? Try to focus on the core basics of the primitives. So until you don't do that, getting or solving a problem did not mean much. And there were certain courses, especially in thermodynamics sector that we did, and even some in OR that we did, where there were a lot of push to say, have you laid down your assumptions? Have you broken up the concepts? Even if you don't get the answer correct, that's perfectly fine, right? But how you think about solving a problem and breaking up a problem into smaller chunks and then solving the smaller chunks. I think the college does a very good job at it, right? And I'm sure that over the last 2 decades, a lot of other interesting things would have happened. One of the things I always felt was that we did not have, electives as much as, some of the other international schools, for example, have, right? Would have really loved to pick up courses outside of core mechanical. We had an opportunity to do humanities courses and some other courses, but I think that opportunity was very small. So I wish that there were more such opportunities on design, picking up things which are more interrelated to other topics, which for example, design is one, comps is the other one, right? Fabrication sector are the one, which a lot of mechanical people do, but not other sciences do. So that holistic approach I thought was kind of missing, and if that was there, that would have been also wonderful. Yeah.
Right, sir. So, sir, what is your final piece of advice to all the students who are watching you right
now? See, for students, just make sure you giving you 100% to your studies. Again, as I said, I'm a bit old school in that respect. Studies are critical. Make sure, you do a good job at what you're doing. For some of you, this would also be the, you may not be studying after this, right? So make full use of it. You realize that after maybe 10, 15 years, you realize that, hey, it was really fun to be in college where we had the freedom to do a lot of things. So make full use of this time. This is also a time which you're in a slightly protective environment. So make mistakes, learn, and pick brains from your other students, your teachers. Just make sure you do that. The other one is, if you are looking at entrepreneurship, my advice would be to understand what that domain is. Really research well on the problem area that you're trying to get into, right? And the problem area should be big enough and exciting enough for you to stop doing everything else, but just keeping that as your core focus and working on it. And then sky's the limit, man. Yep.
Right. Sir, thank you so much once again, sir, for taking out time, and all the best and good luck for your IPO as well.
Thanks, Tushar. Thanks a lot, and all the best to you guys, man.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Bye.